End of the Second World War, in the communist and socialist state of the USSR, becoming a world power and vying with the West, the United States, England, Britain, France, um, um, for domination in the world economic sphere. And so they took a more liberal approach. And that liberal approach, when examined in depth, you will see that at very critical times, that absolute solidarity was lacking in instances. And so we could go to, I don't know, I mean, we just listened to Baba Mugabe talking about land and resource allocation and control. And so when we go to Southern Africa, let's look at the Southern African states, the frontline states, as we call them, with Mozambique and Zimbabwe, Namibia, Angola, you know, portions of the Congo being included in there. Not the government, of course, which was run by Mobutu, but the Simbas and other freedom fighters in that region. Fidel, you have to bring Fidel into this conversation to deal with it. You can deal with Ethiopia too, which is a very sensitive subject in regards to the involvement of Russia and Cuba, and you have to really know the history. And so when it came to certain pivotal moments that, as I said, resource backing allocation was lacking in the war for Angola, at a pivotal point, arms were not received by the quote unquote socialist comrades of the MPLA, and Fidel had to step in 1975 and then again in 1988. And we already know about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and you know, Fidel being absolutely livid at Khrushchev removing the missiles from Cuba, so as a deterrent to United States imperialism. So it's that trick bag of, you know, dealing with the lesser of two evils, you know, so to speak, in regards to it. And so I think that Africa and its resource base, first of all, has to, you know, the federations and the economic unions that are there have to be more solidified, you know, regionally. And then you deal with it from, I mean, Russia's a big country now, but it doesn't compare to the African continent. So the unification of Africa is key in regards to it. But in regards to that historical relationship, we've seen that pivotal moments where we've been let down by that liberal approach. And of course, that socialism has many spheres. Remember the revisionist theory, the theory of revisionism, how true socialist nations turn, you know, into liberal nations. That lesson that we always study from Mao, combat liberalism. So that's what we see in the extreme in this case. And then the forays, but it's kind of personal because they kind of try to deal with us. They went on social media trying to, you know, finagle us. When you do the investigation of what happened with the elections and like what you said, what might be coming up soon, also with the next one, is, you know, they put out things in the algorithms to stoke the anger of the African community in the United States, you know, as a means to, I don't know how, you know, they're trying to play both sides of the fence. You over here and you helping Trump, but then over here you trying to shuttle money to Black Lives Matter stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, you got your hands in too many things.
I wanted to talk about the commonalities that are there too, because as you said, and this is politics, period. There's complications and levels to this difficulty. As I traverse the politics of it, there are a lot of contradictions that come up. In relation to the American media, we're talking about how they're really playing on a Cold War attitude.
Right.
There's a new generation of people who weren't alive during that Cold War, and so they're reviving some of that same rhetoric and the ideologies behind it to make Russia, even though it's not the Russian Federation Russia is not the same as the USSR.
Right.
But the United States is making American people and people who live in the United States, whether they happen to be citizens or not, they're making them believe that Russia is this big boogeyman in the world. That it's the de facto enemy of democracy and independence in the world. When we look at Zimbabwe, for example, Mugabe had positive relations with Putin. They had something in common. The United States has sanctions against Zimbabwe and Russia. Right. So they used to get together and joke about that. That commonality, that struggle against this imperialist economic standard that they had to fight against, and why it is they had to work together against that. So somebody like Mugabe had the foresight to understand. Okay, who can I work with against the enemy of American imperialism? Against this capitalist enemy that we have.
And very effectively.
Yes.
Very effectively, and across the board, not only with Russia, but remember the Gukarunga, the special forces of the Zimbabwe National Army trained in North Korea also. People scared of them guys too. They're like, we don't want to deal with them. They the crazy ones, and the government now is just like, has disbanded those guys. But the relationship with China also. Zimbabwe had this whole look east policy, whereby which, like we're saying, if you got to deal with the lesser of two evils, then, based upon what it is that you have to do, at that particular time, that's what you do, And he was able to navigate that very well. Of course, him being an elder statesman and, understanding that historical relationship. Many episodes of it, the relationship with Samora and the Russian pilots who would find a plane that went down that he was in that killed him, by the South Africans who manipulated the navigation equipment on the airplane. So, that relationship is historical. But as in all alliances, as in all coalitions, one must be aware and savvy, as Mugabe was, to navigate those and come out with the best experience for your people.
Yes, indeed, family. You're listening to What Good Is a Song, the Friday Night Drum. And we, here in October, in our fall pledge drive, we invite you to give us a call at 404-523-8989 to pledge